So here's the social scientist. My name is Ruth Winden, and I'm German. I studied at the University Hanover, Cologne, and did a master's in social sciences. So I specialize in sociology. It's always lovely to see some fellow sociologists here. I did political science, economics, and linguistics. And then on the side, I also did education philosophy. So in Germany, at my, all those decades ago, we did things very, very broadly. And then I was so advanced in my studies, but I still had to go to the UK, abroad for a year because I was doing English linguistics, and the only opportunity that was left was Cambridge. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose, it's the only one left, and I applied and I got a Erasmus scholarship to Cambridge for a year, and that was a massive privilege, and I'm very aware of it and grateful for the opportunities. Then I started my own business in careers. I fell into careers. I had no plan. My plan was to do a PhD in political science, but this amazing opportunity came along and I went for it and I got it. And then I ran my career consultancy after that for 20 years. And 18 months ago, I made a major change and joined the University of Leeds as their careers with research consultant. And the job title means that Leeds makes a very clear commitment to declaring a research career is a fantastic foundation for any career. And so we don't favor academic careers over startups or going to the private sector or into the third sector. We regard all career choices as equally valid and important, and that's my role to support it. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about LinkedIn, because it's something I use extensively with my researchers at the university with great success. And I just wanted to share some of my ideas how you can actually use LinkedIn to really extend your influence and your power. And Sam said, how do we write about our work? Well, LinkedIn at the end is also where you write about your work. So I just wanted to take you through some of the things I do with my researchers at Leeds, and then hopefully I timed it. I should have time also for discussion and questions, because I'm throwing quite a lot at you, but you will get the slides. There's quite a bit of detail in there, but I hope it will be useful. So before I start, I'm very, very conscious that for some people, LinkedIn is like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And some of them say to me, I don't really mind. I'm on there, but it doesn't do anything for me. So, I'm neutral. And I saw some of you say, yeah, we loathe it too. So if I can inspire you, just open your eyes a little, what I think is actually incredibly useful tool for ECRs in really, influencing your impact and your future and your careers. So bear with me, and I hope it makes sense. And I'm really interested in having some good discussions at the end. So I'm putting my neck out here by saying, used well, LinkedIn can be an effective level of opportunities. When you think about it, we are all on LinkedIn as individuals, and we have a world of opportunity, and we have a global network that we can reach out. We can decide who we want to connect with, we can showcase our work, and we can access opportunities worldwide that before LinkedIn existed would have been very, very difficult to achieve. And I want to explain a little bit more about what I mean. So just to put LinkedIn into context, the data is from May to this year, 2022. And since January, LinkedIn has again grown by 20 million. So we have 830 million members worldwide. Now I understand, in comparison to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, these are small numbers, but don't forget they're all people who are on a platform for professional reasons, and academics are becoming so prolific on LinkedIn. 5 years ago, it was always really difficult to entice people to come on. Now we see a lot of academic leaders, see a lot of ECRs, researchers all across the world, and doing, really sharing their work with their stakeholders, with their colleagues, with their peers. So there is a huge shift from researchers onto LinkedIn, and I think for good reason. We have 58 million companies on LinkedIn. Again, that is huge. Lots of opportunities out there. So those of you who are thinking, yes, I would like to have a stint in industry, or I would like to have a stint in the third sector, or I want to join a think tank, and maybe I'll come back to academia. But for the, there's so many choices out there, 58 million. Then we have 120,000 schools on LinkedIn called schools, it's universities, it is further education colleges. So basically every university that I'm aware of is very present on LinkedIn, and I'll show you a way to make the most of those opportunities. And then 39,000 skills. I know the recruiters are constantly on LinkedIn looking for talent like you. They will put in certain skills as well, because there is such a skills shortage in particular areas. So this is what LinkedIn offers us, and that is just a snapshot. So why I'm so keen on LinkedIn is, and these are just 4 reasons and 4 areas I want to discuss today. So one is, if you have a strong profile, you can attract opportunities in your sleep. And I mean it, because it's happened at Leeds, whether I work with PGRs or I work with postdocs, if we have a strong profile, we attract the right people to us. Those who are not interested don't come, and that's okay too. Who wants to be connected to 830 million people? So how do you attract opportunity to your profiles? How do you build your networks? How do you do career search? It's research. It's just such an incredibly interesting database of 830 million and their careers. And then the last thing I want to cover is, how do we raise our visibility? So I want to start with the profiles. And for me, it's really important. That's a starting point. How do we create a profile that oozes credibility and that builds trust? And oozes credibility, I mean it. When you look at all your backgrounds, you have so much credibility. Your research, your education, your engagement, you teach, you guide, you mentor, you're engaged in lots of different activities at the university and beyond. There is so much that gives you huge credibility. And when we have credibility and we also evidence what we do, that builds trust. But how do we do that? And I just want to give you a few tips. So first of all, I did some research yesterday just to look at the figures again. And when you type in on LinkedIn, when you type in research associate, you get 2.3 million results. Postdoctoral researcher, 760,000 results. So there are a lot of researchers on there. And I just don't want you to be a commodity. I want you to step into your brilliance and think, okay, who am I? What do I want to show? Who do I want to attract to my profile? And there are a few tips I want to give you to do that. So how do you claim your space on LinkedIn? Because you're unique individuals to make a unique contribution. This is what I find a lot. This is not a criticism, it's just a reality. So when I looked at postdocs at the University of Glasgow, there were a lot of people who came up in my search with this. So no photo of Zena protected someone's identity here. And then all it says is postdoctoral researcher at the University of Glasgow. And this is simply because on LinkedIn, by default, they pull in our job title from our experience section. So if your job title on LinkedIn says postdoctoral research, University of Glasgow, then that's what LinkedIn pulls in, and that's the first thing we see. And as you can see now, it's pretty meaningless, because there will be lots of postdoctoral research. It doesn't give me a hook. It doesn't tell me, where you're coming from. What are you an expert at? What is your research interest? There's nothing to engage me and make me click on and see who you are. So I want all of you who are on LinkedIn, have a check. Is that you? Have you got that in the headline? And then, how can you make it enticing? What is your message to people like us? If you're interested in interdisciplinary research, then tell me that, so that if I'm interested in interdisciplinary research, I'll be more tempted to look at your profile. So I just wanted to bring in 3 people I worked with at Leeds, and Pete is, he is a postdoc, and he is an expert in liquid crystal displays and devices. He's really keen on public engagement. He is very active in a kind of science. He's multidisciplinary, he's based in physics and engineering, he's also an expert on clean room lab management. So these were the keywords that we put in because we wanted to make sure that when people search for liquid crystal displays, he comes up, and not just on page 10, but ideally on page 1. That's always my mission with my researchers. I want you to come on page 1 because, and we can influence this because in that headline where it said, the one before, just to compare, where it said postdoctoral research, University of Glasgow, now what people will see is this. And these are all keywords that will be ranked and gives you the greater chance, to be found by people. That's obviously just one section of the profile, but it's the first thing you see, and I really want you to work on these things. And so, there's a lovely picture of him, he's smiling, it's very friendly, I wouldn't hesitate, even if I didn't know him, if I was in his field or interested in finding out more about him, I wouldn't hesitate to contact him. And then here, he's chosen, a photo of him cycling. He's wanted to bring something in personal, and that is fine. Personally, I prefer something about your professional background. But at the end, it is your choice and you decide what you want to showcase. So the next one here is Valeria, and she has chosen this amazing image. She took the screenshot herself. I'm not in her field. I have no idea what that is, but I'm not relevant to her. I'm not her target audience, but anyone who works in high performance computing, data analysis, AI, it will mean something. And that's the purpose. You don't even have to read anything. You either know what that is and you're attracted by it, or you say, oh, nice blue picture, like me. I have no idea. But, then I'll probably I might look because I'm intrigued by it, but I'm not necessarily in the target market. And it's very, very short and snappy, again, friendly photo. And then she says passionate. And I know a lot of them say, oh, really? But you know what? Valeria is so passionate about what she does. She oozes passion and she loves what she does, and she's been really good at it and did a fantastic PhD. And all she has in here is, the keywords, because that's what she knows people are looking for. And then my last example, that's Fabrizia. And again, you look at the picture and say, oh, is it ecology? Is it something about environment? Is it about rapeseed? What is it? And actually, she is an expert in agroecology. She just got a lectureship just last month at Royal Holloway, so I'm sure she will update her profile. But I love what she's done because it's colorful, it's interesting. And then here, look at that. Bugs lover, she brings in a little bit of humor. And I mean, I'm not a bugs lover, but I love the fact that she plays with it. It's very playful, and again, she has a lot of good keywords in there, and she shows, what she knows about what her expertise is. And you either, are attracted by that or you're not. But have a think about what is your audience and what do they expect to see about you? So it's not about us necessarily, it's about who do we want to connect with and how can we showcase to them, come and talk to me, let's connect, let's discuss our research or whatever it is that you want to do on LinkedIn. I hope that makes sense. I know there are lots of questions coming up in the chat, but I'll look at them in more detail in a minute. Okay, I'll make sure we have time at the end. So who's your audience and what do they expect to see about you? This is very basic. You get the slides. These are some basic elements I'd really want you to work on. And even if you just do one thing, have a look at your profile and what can you add, what can you bring out? Because people are out there looking for people like you. So absolutely headshot. We know that, if you have a profile without a photo, you're 40 times less likely to get approached because people think, what have you got to hide? Who are you? Are you real? Are you fake? There's a lot of anxiety about, who we are and what we represent online. The banner image, you saw some examples, the headline. And one thing that was really important to me was, your experience section. If you want to be on LinkedIn, can you just do us a favor? Tell us more about what we do. I look at this profile and all I see is a job title and the length that you've been in a post, but I'm interested in you. I want to see what are you doing on a daily basis? You know, what are you researching? What are your activities? How many people are you maybe informally or formally supervising? You know, what is your research interest? I see so little of that, and I don't know what it is. I know some people are nervous about it, but you're in control. Share with us what you're comfortable sharing. It's out in the public domain, but do share something. It looks really empty, and you know, people want to, if they're interested in you, they want to find out more about what you do. And if you don't show them anything, they'll go to someone else. So we are in control. We have that power to show people what we do and how we do it and why we do it, what's our why. And people find that really interesting. And then they're, you know, then they're more willing to come forward and connect with you. Can I just also say briefly, skills, we have up to 50. So really important, because a lot of recruiters, if you're interested in moving out of academia into different career paths for a while, you know, they do look at the skills and they do search for them. And you can be really intricate with your skills. You can be very, very specific. Bring in your technical skills, bring in your human skills. You know, they both are incredibly important. And get to, okay, maybe 50 is big, but eventually, you know, get to 40, 45, you know, but if you just have 1 or 2 or 3 there, you know, it's just not enough. You have a lot more skills than that. And just the last thing about the skills, the top 3 will be very visible. So always make sure, you know, are there the top 3 that you want to have there, because you can move them up and down. You only see the top 3 before you click. And so one last thing, featured section is something new, which I love, because it's a fantastic opportunity to draw your, you know, people to your best work, the most important things you want them to see. It's very much at the top of your profile. You can't miss it when people have it, and it's a great opportunity to just showcase what you're all about. And then please back it up with social proof. So, I mean, we can say online what we want, but people are saying, are you really as good as, you know, are you really as good as you say? So in terms of Pete, you know, he runs the Science Network, you know, yes, it's on his profile, he's got pictures up there, he's got recommendations about it. He is real, he doesn't just say it. And it's so much you can pull in, whether you've written a blog post or articles or, you know, images. Maybe you got mentioned in the media, maybe you're doing some outreach work. Bring it in, because people really want to see this. And also images often are more accessible to people than reading text. It's often easier, we're drawn to the images. So that's the profile. Now we're going to the networking. And for me, when I think about LinkedIn, 830 million people globally. So it's really exciting, you know, wherever you are at whatever university, and even if you don't have so many opportunities within your university, nothing stops you from connecting with people all over the world. And that's, I think, what gives it so much power. But it's not just adding people to my network, it's also how to engage with them, how do I build those relationships. I'm very old-fashioned, I come from relationship building background. For me, the relationships are everything, and LinkedIn has really helped me expand my relationships. I do a lot of work with the US, I do a lot of work with Europe, I do more work with colleagues in Africa, and that's really come through LinkedIn, because suddenly we can all come together on one platform and it's all free. So just to explain, LinkedIn has a system where we have, you know, a first, second, third degree connection, and people get really worried about this. So it's not to worry, it's just a way of the ripple effect. So the closest relationship is between you and that first degree connection, and they actually have to ask you for permission to connect with you. So you don't even have to say yes to everyone, you can choose. So that's the closest relationship, and then their connections and their connections. So it's that ripple effect. And if you're directly connected, it means you can recommend each other, you show up in someone's feed. So LinkedIn has a very strong news feed. You just have more visibility with this person and you're closer connected. And I think there is something about numbers in this. I always get asked, oh, you know, how many people should I be connected to? And why do these third-degree people matter? It just shows that if you're researching careers, for instance, or you're researching a specific employer, if you have more people beyond, the first, second, and then the third degree connections, you just have a wider reach. That's all what it is. Also, when you post things, it just can go potentially wider, and I'll explain that in a minute. So how big do you want to have a network on LinkedIn? It so much depends on, it's a choice. You can have up to 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, and you know what? I wouldn't want 30,000. Who on earth wants 30,000? But I know a lot of people in the business world who have 30,000, and it keeps them very busy. I don't have time for that. I'm much more about personal networks, but over the years, I know I was pretty stuck at 350 for a while, and then I went to 3 conferences, and suddenly I went over 500. If you have 20 first degree connections or direct connections on LinkedIn, and you say, oh, LinkedIn doesn't do anything with me, you just haven't got that reach. So I would think a good starting point is getting to 150, and then over time, consistently. Personally, I think the real fun starts at 500, but I'm really conscious that it's a huge number, incredibly intimidating, and took me a while to get from 350 to 500. But I've been on LinkedIn for 16 years, and other people have been there that long. They probably have now 10,000. But I'm not keen on that. There's no right or wrong answer. I have some colleagues who only have people they all personally know, and they have 300 people on there, and that's more than enough for them. So it's a choice. So I'm certainly not someone who advocates, oh, connect to everyone and anyone and just make sure you've got all the numbers. I do choose who I connect with, and it's about, have we got something in common? Or can I help that person? We're talking about power and privilege. Can I help this person? So I connect a lot with my researchers because I have good networks, and I want to help them, elevate them and give them access to my networks. If you remember one thing from my talk this morning, can I ask you to remember this? And this is, can you always personalize your connection request? I said I'm coming from a relationship-driven approach here. I get so many requests, and it's the automatic request from LinkedIn, and it says, Ruth, I want to be part of your network. And then the first thing I think is, who are you? What do you want? And what's in it for me? And I think that is a very typical reaction. What's in it for me is what we all think. So if I just want to show you how to do this. So I always make that rule. It's the simplest way to do it to be safe. Go onto either on your desktop or on your mobile, go on someone's profile, and then you click on connect. And then it gives you the option to add a personal message. So what do you want to say to that person? Why should they say yes to you? And it's not a big deal. You could say, hi, so-and-so, I follow your work really closely. I'm interested in this. My research is about that, and I'd love to connect so we can have a conversation. Are you open to this? You've got 300 characters, that's enough. It can be as simple as that. Or I get this a lot. I've been in the industry, my careers industry for a long time. I have young people coming into the industry and saying, Ruth, I see you're really well connected. You've been around for a long time. I'd love to, learn from you. Are you open to connecting? And so of course I am, because I want the younger generation to come through and take over. So I want to elevate the younger, and I want to help them connect. So it doesn't have to be anything out of this world. Just be honest. Maybe you share the research interest. Maybe you saw an article. Maybe you're going to a conference saying, I want to reach out before the conference, so we can have, maybe coffee if it's an in-person conference, all this kind of stuff. On the mobile, you have to be a bit careful, because there are some, if you click on the connect button, this is LinkedIn for you, it can be very confusing. If you connect on the profile page on the mobile phone, it sends off this impersonal message. So look for 3 dots, and then you can personalize it. Because otherwise what happens is, you want to, you meet people might not respond, because we don't want to be their work and their hassle to find out who is this person? Does it make sense for me? We want to make it irresistible for them to say yes quickly. And then once you're connected, do nurture that relationship like you do with each other here, like you do at the conference. If you see something that's useful, or if you see, I saw this and thought of you, this is too many people just add people on their LinkedIn profile, have them in their network, and then don't do anything. And I think, why connect then in the first place? So for me, LinkedIn is just an extension of my networking, my relationship with my field, my colleagues online. That's the only difference, but I don't behave any differently. Okay, third piece, careers research. I love this, and it's something that obviously has never really been possible for a long time, but it's a real eye-opener. And so I wanted to show a few ways that you can actually use LinkedIn for careers research. And first of all, you can explore career pathways. We have those 830 million profiles, and we have people's career trajectories. I understand if you look at people 20 years above you, they will have driven their careers differently from how you would do it now. But you can also look at people who are 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead of you. When I work with the researchers at Leeds, those who decided that they want to move on, we look extensively at where have the people that in your field, in your department, in your research group, where are the people 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years above, where have they gone? And we find them on LinkedIn. And we can look at what choices did they make? What did they do? Where have they gone? How have they developed their careers? Have they done side moves? Have they had a clear career path? How did they do it? It's all visible. It's all in the public domain, and it's all up-to-date data because most people keep their LinkedIn profiles, at least when they change jobs, they keep it up to date. LinkedIn also has a tool, Career Explorer. It gives you information based on their data about professions closely connected to those of a researcher, and that can be quite useful also to get some ideas. Another piece I love doing is, if you're interested in doing some careers research, talking to people in different universities, in different roles. For instance, at the University of Leeds, I have more and more postdocs who decide they want to stay close to research but go into a project management role, and then we go on LinkedIn and we look at, okay, who are project managers at the University of Leeds? We can find them really easily, and then they connect with them and say, do you have 15 minutes of your time, because I'm really interested in a project management career path. You can find target employers, and whether that's academia or whether that's not academia, there's so much information out there. Who are the key contacts? Who are the hiring managers? How do I get in front of them? My research, I train them up in doing this, and they do it a lot because, I had people who wanted to go to a startup and they were brave and they crafted a very nice message to the CEO, who was only 5, 6, 7 years older than them, and they got a reply within half an hour. So it can be very powerful. Then, of course, interview preparation. You want to make sure, that you know as much as you can about your interviewers because they know so much about you. You want to make that level playing field. Look at their profiles. Where have they been? What have they done? What are they interested about? Look at the recommendations. What do people say about them? What have you got in common? That just makes you feel so much more empowered going into an interview because you have also something that you can throw in and then can mention, and you can break the ice and you can build that rapport, which is so important. And a lot of us, we do this via LinkedIn. And then the last piece here, yes, LinkedIn is using a lot of the data. There's a lot of global national labor market information, and I've got the link here should you be interested in that. But I think it's a really good tool just to find out things that before we had something like LinkedIn, it would take us a long time. Actually, it was probably impossible because it was all private information. And then I want to show you one thing I absolutely love, and I can't recommend it enough, and sadly not that many people know about it. And so I chose the University of Glasgow, and you can do this for any university in the world. They're all on LinkedIn. So every university has a homepage on LinkedIn. And as you can see here, it says alumni. So alumni is anyone who studied there, has some connection with Glasgow. And there are 193,000 people. And the reason why I like the alumni function is because if you want to do any research or you want to connect with people, often when you've been to the same university, you have something in common already, and people are more willing to give you their time. So look out, find the University of Glasgow or any university of your choice, look at the alumni, and we have at our disposal now 194,000 people almost. That's incredible. So what do we do then? So what you can see, all of these, so you can look at where do they live, where do they work, what do they do, what do they study. You can even look at what they're skilled at and then how you connect it. Just to go back on this one, you can look at, okay, I'm a postdoc in history, and I just want to see, what do people do with history? And then you can click on these 7,359. And if you want clients, so all their profiles show up. Obviously, that's too many to go through, but you can then drill down, do your research, and you might end up with a really manageable number and lots of useful information. It might even give you ideas you never knew before, because you can see what these people have done. What have they done with a background in history? So I did a little bit of research, and I had just a scenario I had quite recently from someone at Leeds. Someone wanted to move to Melbourne. So I made up the example, okay, someone wants to find out what is the biology lab like at Monash University in Australia and in Melbourne. And you know what? It took me 2 minutes. So basically I put in, because you have the criteria, so you can put the criteria in. I put in Monash University, I put in biology, and I put in 2015 to 2022, because I wanted someone who was not quite as, head of department or something. And one person came up, and Mary did a master's at Glasgow. And if I was interested in this, I would reach out to her and say, Mari, I found you on LinkedIn. I'm emigrating to Australia. My background is also in biology. Would you give me 15 minutes? Because I'm trying to understand, what the lab is like, blah, blah, blah. Then I did another example. And this time I went for more senior professionals. So this is why I changed the numbers here. So I started in 1995, went to 2005. That's 17 years ago. So these people have had a significant level of achievement in their careers by now. And I pretend I'm an economist and I'm interested in program and project management. And I found 74 people. So, okay, that's still quite a good number, but I can look through, if you were online, I could show you, but you can look at all the 74 people and then decide, who's doing something interesting, or who would I like to talk to? And then you approach them. You go to their profiles, you click, and you send them a connection request. So that is the power, and you can go from 195,000 people to your absolute, key contacts that are really exactly what you want in a matter of minutes. I mean, this is just such a powerful tool. And now the last piece I wanted to explain to you, and then we will have time for questions. So the last thing I do is I work with researchers on really growing their visibility and their engagement on LinkedIn, because they want to showcase their work, they want to find people to connect with, they want to showcase their work to their stakeholders, they want to reach out. And how do you do that? And I know this is probably the part that scares them the most. I understand that. But the beauty is you're doing LinkedIn in your own time, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, whether you need time to craft the message, whether you want to run it past someone else, doesn't matter. You can do all that. You don't have to respond there, here and there and immediately. It really takes that pressure off. You can think about it. So I just want to give you an example. We are recruiting 2 new members of staff, and what I did was I shared it on LinkedIn. My boss is Emma Sperry. So you see this in blue because on LinkedIn you can add an @ symbol and then add the name, and then the person gets pulled into your post and she then gets notified. So my boss saw immediately that I was sharing this. I did this deliberately because I wanted her to see what I'm doing, but also make sure that she's she sees that we're all in the team, trying to really use our networks to get some fantastic people in. All it took me about 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I checked it, spell checking, all the rest, and then here you see I put in hashtags. So that means anyone who follows these hashtags like Instagram or Twitter, they will see this as well. So I just shared a post that my boss had done. You can't see the post, it comes beneath, but this is how I introduced it to my community, and it came up in the news feed of my 2,300 connections. And then you never know, because most of my networks are actually outside of academia, so they might not even be interested in this, but hey, researchers are my new community. So I had lots of nice connections. Look, and there's actually Sam as well, and he, there's my boss, and she's a she's a project manager, she was a postdoc. So, lots of people I know, and another 26, but this is what amazed me. They've obviously shared it as well, because I got 1,460 views of that post. And that is the power of LinkedIn. You can get visibility really broadly. I don't know, I can probably look at who these views are, but for me, I thought great result, because it's gone pretty wide now, and who knows what applicants we get. So this is the kind of stuff you can do. I'll just show you that quickly. You can pull people in so they get notified. So if you wanted, for instance, to let's say you wanted to send Sam, or say it's a fantastic conference program, and you say many thanks to Sam. You pull Sam in, and then she will see it, and others will see it, and we give her credit. So these are the kind of things we can do with LinkedIn: elevate each other, support each other, share other people's work. Of course, also share your own work. But I think that people are often a little bit more hesitant than sharing the work of others. So if you want to get more visibility, the easiest way personally, and the quickest way I think you can do is, and LinkedIn experts I work with confirm that, put quality comments onto LinkedIn. Quality comments are that add value to conversation. For instance, there might be someone in your research field who's just, had a breakthrough or published a paper, and they might ask a question, go in and comment. Liking is fine, but the comments, that gives you immediate visibility, because, first of all, you get notified through comments. Also, other people see it. And if it's a good quality comment where you show your expertise, or you ask a really good question, people do notice. And then people will start to look at your profile, and you really engage your community, and people will reach out to you. There's lots of other stuff here. You'll get the slides. The tagging was, where I pulled in my boss was the @sign, and only if appropriate. I don't believe in pulling in people for the sake of pulling people in. I think that's really bad practice. There has to be a really good reason. Sometimes I post things and I'll pull in some of my colleagues who I know will have an opinion, just to get the conversation started. That's also quite flattering, to be honest, and then suddenly they engage, and then other people engage, and you can have some really good conversations. And they are conversations that add to our learning and our professionalism. They're not about cats, dogs, and birthday cakes, very rarely. Actually, cats and dogs, not at all. I think that belongs somewhere else. Use 3 or 4 hashtags, and then show generosity. I love it when I see my researchers sharing things, and if I see it, it comes to my feed. I'm on LinkedIn. Sometimes I say, Ruth, I'm posting something, I look out for it. This is what being a professional in a nurturing success and nurturing our colleagues is all about. I want to help them along and help them celebrate. And thankfully, I see so many academics do the same now for their researchers, for their research groups. And that is, I think it's really changing. It's not about showing off. Yes, there are people who do this. I personally can't stand this constant self-promotion. They're not people who I necessarily want to engage with, or people who always take but don't give. Or who hijack your post and then suddenly draw their attention to themselves. That's not really how we communicate. And then sharing things that are not on LinkedIn. I know the ethos is changing a bit, but I'm a bit of a purist. I don't come here to look at dog photos and cat photos. If I'm so inclined, I go onto Instagram. So I come onto LinkedIn to learn, to connect, and to develop my networks. Okay. So I hope this whistle tour has given you some ideas. And I want to encourage you. I know a lot of you said, I saw in the chat, oh God, LinkedIn, it's Marmite. I hate that thing. Maybe you do. Maybe there's something here that you haven't been aware of that you can do. Or maybe you decide, no, it's not for me. But I do think that academia is becoming more and more active. Your collaborators, your stakeholders, there is a really interesting community, and we have the power to bring people together and also change research culture that way. So I encourage you to think, if I'm inclined to give it another go, or if I'm just curious and see how it works, how do you activate those superpowers? And the superpowers you have is you can connect with the people of your choice. You can showcase what you're doing and pull people in and connect to you. You can do careers research. You can help each other out. You can learn. I mean, there's lots more you can do on LinkedIn, but I didn't want to overdo it. There is a lot you can do. And then the last thing, and I was so pleased about, what Jess said earlier today and what Miles said, for me, LinkedIn is really a way to address privilege and power. Whatever your background, whatever your journey, you are there and you can make certain choices. And also, some of us who've been around for a long time, I have a real sense of responsibility to support the younger generation, to support researchers. So if I can help, I will, because we all want you ECRs to do really well, because you are the future of research. And so whenever we can, and that's really an appeal to all of us, I have a certain privilege and I have a certain level of power on LinkedIn because I've been there a long time. I have a lot of connections. I know how to use it well. And I'm very conscious of that. And I want to make sure I elevate my peers, the researchers, the colleagues, those I lead, I guide, and I support. So I help them make connections, and I do share my networks with them. I share their posts, their profiles, and I always attribute their work. When they ask me, I do write thoughtful recommendations. I really take time. Yes, it does take time, but I want them to have a meaningful recommendation, not just, oh, yes, so-and-so's a nice person to work with. When they celebrate their achievements, I respond and I share it because it's all really exciting to see them, the joy when they had a breakthrough, however big or small that is. I say yes to genuine connection requests, especially from the next generation. And then, those of us who are very established on LinkedIn, let's open the doors upwards and sideways. But you as ECRs can do the same, because just think of the PGRs that you're leading and guiding and working with, or the technicians, or the secretaries, or research happens only because many of us are making a contribution. How can we help each other? And I'm a big believer, if we all do that, we create a much more collaborative and positive research culture. And this is me, a whistle-stop tour, and I'm now open to answer any questions, because I couldn't see the chat while I was presenting.
It was fabulous. Thank you, Ruth. You can see you're getting a lot of love in the chat.
Yeah. And also hopefully some good and challenging questions.
The points that I noted, people, commenting on the time and balancing that, that time.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay. So what I always say is, I'm not a slave to LinkedIn, but I know it's the same with Twitter, to be honest. Twitter's even worse. I could spend my whole life on Twitter and be very happy. And ideally, if you're Twitter, it's a great combination with LinkedIn. What I do is I say to my researchers, okay, we probably work on their profiles to get you to the standard, and you only saw the top of their profiles. I run a workshop about 3 hours, and then they go away, and then we discuss their work, and we really polish it. I'm a maximizer, so I want it to be excellent. That probably takes altogether about 5-6 hours. I'll be honest about that. Then what you do is you can do 15 minutes a day. It all starts with a really good profile. And these days I go in 15 minutes. The more you do, the quicker you get. And I will really discipline myself, because otherwise I can be on there all day. And obviously I have other things to do. What I can recommend, my little trick is I go in 15 minutes or maybe 20 minutes before a meeting. And then I have to come out. So that's how I set myself limits. I've been on social media for 12, 13 years. I had to discipline myself. So I totally understand it. But even if you just do a strong profile, and some people do it quicker, it doesn't have to be perfect. Even if you have that, I think that's better than having something that is really so basic that it does you more harm. Do yourself justice. You're fantastic people. You have so much to offer. Show it to us.
Fab, thank you. I don't know if anyone else wants to. I'm aware we're going slightly over, but I'm assuming if you need to run away, people, you'll run away. I don't know if anyone's got any other questions for Ruth that they want to ask her. Well, we have her here. I have put a link in I did post in the chat and say, remember to everyone, use your careers service. I've put the link for the University of Glasgow, but I'm sure everybody, even if your careers service can't explicitly support research staff, I bet they've got good resources on things like LinkedIn.
And also, maybe you have access to LinkedIn Learning. I mean, we integrate LinkedIn Learning, a lot of leads, and so there is a lot of support. But also, if you have questions, I mean, I'm an open networker, you know, as long as you personalize your request. You say, hi, Ruth, I was on that talk. I've got a question for you. I will connect, you know, because I do think it's such a leveler. And thank you also for that fantastic question, Sam, about power and privilege. It made me very aware of the power and privilege I have and what responsibility comes with that. But I think it's also a real enabler for people to claim their space in an increasingly online world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fabulous. Thank you. I think what we'll do is we'll stop here, if that's all right with everyone. And you heard Ruth say, if you personalize a request, you can indeed contact her on LinkedIn. And also she's on Twitter too. So I know there's been a few tweets for her talk. So that was brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here this morning. So we've